Brewers cruise to an easy 7-3 win over the Pirates. That's more like it. We'll talk about that. Woody's performance. Is Devin Williams the best closer in Brewers history? Some numbers there might back him up. Is Craig Counsell staying or leaving? All that and more coming up next here on this edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, it was good to sit back and watch the Brewers go on and win 7-3 handily in Pittsburgh. Not tight-roping a game like 2 nights ago or so many times this year where we're just putting all this pressure on our pitching staff. Nope. Woodruff had plenty of offense to work with, and you know what? He got the job done as well. We'll talk about that. Craig Counsell. Some of you don't want him back. I don't know why. We'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. And should Counsell even want to come back? Mark Antanasio buys further stake in that soccer team in England. And is Devin Williams the best closer in Brewer history? Some interesting numbers I'm going to throw out to you. Well, that's coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman here, first-year host of Locked On Brewers, longtime sportscaster in the state of Wisconsin. Been covering the Brewers for over 40 years. Yeah, I was in high school and I was covering the Brewers for Locked On Brewers, for not Locked On Brewers, for the AP radio network. Locked On Brewers was not around in 1981, but I was working for AP radio and I loved it. And I'm a Brewer fan then, and I'm a Brewer fan now. And you know what? We're trying to pull this team into the postseason once again so we can have our heart broken, right? No, not this year. But anyway, appreciate everybody for coming along on Locked On Brewers. You're downloading us every day, Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major downloads. We're on all the podcasts. And, of course, you go to YouTube. Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Go to Locked On Brewers, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell there. It's going to alert you every time we drop an episode. We're trying to get over 2,000 followers on subscribers to the YouTube channel. I started doing this back in April, and there was 1,000. There was 1,000, and it's been growing every day. And I want to get over 2,000. I want to break that threshold. And then the 3,000 threshold, and keep going, because, hey, we're the number one reason. We're the number one podcast on the internet. You're the number one reason because you guys download us every day on those various podcast apps on the internet and listen to this show. And I appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. All right. So the Brewers settled in and they won 7-3. Well, they used a 6-run explosion in the 5th inning to make things easy on Brandon Woodruff. Yeah, Woody has been pitching great. Not always a lot of run support, as with everybody else who's on the Brewers staff. But 7 innings, 7 strong innings for Woodruff. And you give him a 6-run 5th inning, Woody's going to win that game 999 times out of 1,000. And the offense was beautiful in that inning because they got their first run in the 4th inning on a double play ground out. Canna bounced into a double play with the bases loaded and a run scored. I was like, man, this is how we're going to get our offense these days. But then the Brewers came right back. Canna added an RBI single. Carlos Santana nearly hit a grand slam, went off the top of the fence, 2 runs scored. Turang had an infield RBI single. And it's great to put up a crooked number up there once in a while. More often it should happen. But yes, the Brewers went on to win. Clayton Andrews came on in the 9th inning, made his major league debut, 26 years old. And I felt bad for the kid because he couldn't get it out, and he gave a 3-run home run to Connor Joe. And we're sitting there like, oh boy, get him out of there. Get him out of there. I feel for the kid driving back to the hotel tonight with the rest of the team. Poor old Clayton Andrews. And I'm wondering if he's going to get back to the Pittsburgh hotel, get a little knock on the door. Clayton, you need to take that first flight out to Nashville in the morning because you're going to be sent back down to AAA. It's happened before. 3 runs did not retire a batter in the 9th inning. Someday he's going to be able to look back and say, you know what? Yeah, my major league debut in Pittsburgh, couldn't get anybody out and gave up a home run to a guy who's got 2 first names. Connor Joe. Figueroa came on, got a 1-2-3, cleaned up the mess. I don't think it was 1-2-3. No, Williams got up in the bullpen. Thank God they didn't have to use Devin Williams, but the Brewers were able to go on and win the game. And now they've split this series with the Pirates and can win the rubber game of the 3-game set on Wednesday morning, 11:35 of that first pitch in Pittsburgh. You get the game on Sirius XM, the SXM app. Search Brewers. You're going to get all 162 of Brewers baseball right there on Sirius XM. Also, thank you, everydayers, for following me along on Twitter, Facebook, and all the various apps out there. We are with you every day here on Locked On Brewers. And we get to the final 2 weeks of the season. We're going to get here every day. We're going to be on 7 days a week, updating the Brewers until they clinch. We're going to be here talking Brewers baseball with you here on Locked On Brewers. When we return, we're going to talk about Devin Williams. And is he the best closer in Brewers history? Is he? We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. The show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. FanDuel is a great place if you want to get into the NFL season. The NFL season is starting on Thursday, everybody. And, to get ready for the NFL season, incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. $100 off. That's reason enough to join. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you're not going to want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. And I know some of you are chomping at the bit to get to the NFL. For me, yeah, I love the NFL, but I am September pennant race baseball. Bring it on. MLB Network, I'm watching that every night, taping it when I'm not around, or setting the DVR. Taping it is an old school term, but you know what I mean. So yeah, September baseball. I love it. Craig Timber. Heard somebody mention that earlier today out at a golf course. Is it Craig Timber? Well, he did it in 2018, that furious run. 2019, that furious run to get into the wild card game when people had counted them out. Craig Timber is here, and the Brewers got the win 7-3 over Pittsburgh. Game 3 of the series coming up on Wednesday afternoon. When we return, is Brian Anderson still on this team? I'm not talking about the broadcaster, although BA, I did think he'd be on a few more broadcasts this year, but I get it. The guy's the best NBA broadcaster out there. He is. The guy should be the #1 broadcaster on ABC. Should be doing the NBA Finals. That's how good he is. So he's in high demand. I'm glad we get him for the games that we get him for here on Bally Sports and whoever's going to be broadcasting the games next year. But Jeff Levering is getting a good shot at it, and he's doing a solid job. Levering, God, those guys on TV. I love. We've had Vinny on the broadcast this week. He's rock solid as always. And Dillard is fantastic. You knew he'd be a fantastic broadcaster as well. But Brian Anderson, I thought he'd be on a broadcast a little bit more this year, but I get it that he's not. I understand it, man. The guy's got a heck of a workload and trying to raise a family as well. He is. But we'll talk about Brian Anderson, the player. And is Craig Counsell coming back? Devin Williams, the best closer in Brewers history. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the Brewers. Got a little lofty in those baseball rankings by MLB. A little lofty rating for them. We'll talk about all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Good to have you along, everybody. Game 3 of the series. We'll be here tomorrow night after the game, talking Brewers baseball with you and any storylines that develop in that game. Brian Anderson has not played in 2 weeks. Is he going to be on one of those Cecil Cooper runs where he doesn't play anymore and he just waits out the season on the bench? I don't know. He can't hit. He was great early in the season, throwing guys out from right field, making barehanded pickups at shortstop or at third base, but he can't hit. At one point, looked like to be a great pickup in the offseason as a free agent. Turns out it was a waste of money. Don't need him on this team. Really don't. He's not even going in for defensive purposes anymore. He is pretty much cleaned off of this team, washed out. I don't know where he's ever going to see any, barring injuries, see any more playing time on this team. Devin Williams, the best earned run average in Brewers history with a pitcher with 200 or more innings. That surprises me. I'm surprised he was gone 200 innings so far because he came up in 2020. So I guess 200 innings. Yeah, I guess so. The best reliever, the best closer in Brewers history, I'd have to go like this. Raleigh, number 1. Even though he was here for a short time, he was great in 81 and parts of 82. And when he came back from injury. Number 2, Josh Hader. Josh is great. I wish Josh was still on this team. Can you imagine with Josh Hader on this team and Devin as the setup guy? I mean, Piamps would be slide down to the 7th inning guy. And you have you wouldn't probably have Uribe still here, but I mean, you look at the trade bait you'd have. Maybe you could have made a move at the trading deadline. Maybe you could have gone out and got Pete Alonso. So anyway, Figueroa would not be on this team, though, because they went out and got him from Oakland. That was one of the guys they targeted. But Devin Williams, I would say he's number 4. But the best ERA, 1.96. Best ERA in Brewer history with 200 or more innings. That's phenomenal. But I'd still go Raleigh. I'd still go Hader. Dan Plesac is 3. And then Devin Williams. Plesac from 87 to 89. Some of you old schoolers out there will know that he was one of the elite closers in baseball. And then he got hurt, and he never was the same again. Never was. He was throwing in the high 90s with that slider. Just a left-hander. Dan Plesac was money. So to me, those 3, and not that Devin Williams isn't money, but I still think Hader, of course, Raleigh, and Plesac are the 3 best closers in Brewers history, with Devin Williams, number 4. Craig Counsell. Is he coming back next year? I want to say he is. Now, I think the conversation he's going to have at the end of the season with Mark Attanasio is very basic and very general, and he wouldn't. All you guys would agree with me. He's going to have to say, is this the way? Are we going to go a different route and try to getting some players? Because drafted, developed, that's to use the NFL term. Building up our farm system is great, but when you're going at the trading deadline and getting Mark Hanna and Santana, those are the guys you're making plays for, where you gave away bargain basement minor leaguers. Are we ever going to play for a Pete Alonso? Are we ever going to make a big time play? Can we afford it? What's our financial status? Because I would think if I'm Craig Counsell, I'd say, Jesus, I want to win a championship. Look at my roster. Look at what I'm winning with. I'm winning with Andrew Monasterio. Who ever heard of Andrew Monasterio before the season started? I got 3 or 4 rookies on this lineup sometimes. Nobody's hitting over 210, and we're still in first place. I'm winning. Our shortstop hasn't hit this year. Our shortstop, who's one of the better hitters on this team, is hitting 211. My starting first baseman went in the tank, and he can't even get off the bench right now. We had to go out and get Carlos Santana. 37 years old. And now Tellez can't even play first base anymore. A lot of questions to be answered. My pitching staff is great, but offensively, this team right here, they might be doing it this year. Offensively, this team has got to be retooled for next year in a few different areas, because you can't. It's going to be tough to win a championship this way. I'm not saying you can't. You got 3 great starting pitchers, but down the line, you're losing Corbin Burns, the free agency, and probably Woody too. Okay, I would say probably one, for sure one. I would think 2, especially the way Woody's pitching. He's going to price the Brewers right out. So I'm going to have to do it with some offense. So you're going to get me some run. Are you going to give me some hitters on this team? Can I go out? Can we make some trades for some guys? Can we sign some free agents? I think these are all things that Craig Counsell needs to have addressed. And if not, let's face it, the New York Mets, well, the way the Yankees are going with Boone, they're not going anywhere. Aaron Boone, they're not going anywhere under him. I mean, are they going to the Yankees going to make a surprise fire at the end of the season? I don't know what's going on there, but the Mets for sure have a managerial opening, because Buck Showalter's not coming back with how big of a failure they've been this year. They're letting him ride it out, but he's not coming back next year with the new GM. And the new GM is probably going to be Stearns, I would say. So Stearns is, who would he hire? Obviously Craig Counsell, pretty successful in Milwaukee. Now give the guy a bankroll to work with and see what kind of manager he really is. We see what he could do with Andrew Monasterios in the world and 6 guys in this starting lineup hitting below 230. So, yeah, I think Counsell, that's probably a little heart-to-heart question. I have a feeling he's still coming back. Because if Antanasio could spend some money on a soccer team, he increased his stake in the Norwich soccer team from 15 to 40%. Now, if I'm a general manager or Counsell, I'm thinking, man, our owner is going out and spending money on this, and Antanasio can spend any money the way he wants, because he earned the money. But I'm like, man, why isn't putting some of that money on our team? He's spending it on the soccer club over in England. But man, our team, we're going out and trying to reclaim some of these guys who's past their primes. We're picking up guys off the scrap heap because we can't spend any money. And we're still in first place. A couple of other notes we'll get to coming up here in a little bit. We'll talk about the Brewers' power rankings. The Brewers, I thought, a little lofty. And we'll talk about tomorrow's pitcher as well. The Brewers are sending Freddie to the hill, and life is going to be good with Freddie Peralta, pitcher of the month in Major League Baseball in the National League for August. All right, are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes like more pipeline, high rates, high win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And right now, you can try the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon. You've all seen LinkedIn. It's amazing. Everyone should be on LinkedIn. But linkedin.com/lockedon for a free 60-day trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sound like a superstar. Rise to the top of your class in your work building, at your home. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started today. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Tomorrow the game, Wednesday the game, 11:35, the first pitch, Sirius XM, the SXM app, search Brewers. You'll get all 162 of Brewers baseball. And, of course, all you everydayers, continue to download us on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. And please, YouTube. We're trying to build this YouTube base. I want to go over 2,000. Hit the subscribe button. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. And become part of the growing nation of Locked On Brewers here on YouTube. We come back. We'll tell you about what Julio Teheran is doing. Also, about Ashby. Couple of injury updates, And the Brewers, 6th in the power rankings. That's all coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Free with your host. The Brewers are 6th in the power rankings on MLB.com. I don't look at power rankings at all, to be honest with you. I don't look at them. They're just opinions of people. But nothing wrong with that, but I don't really put too much stock. The power rankings, just like the AP rankings for college football, don't mean a lot. Okay? They're fun. They're interesting, but they're not. The Brewers making the postseason is not dependent on the power rankings. It's just kind of cool to see where they are, though, I guess. But I saw today on MLB.com, the Brewers are 6th in the power rankings. 6th? I thought that was a little high, to be honest with you. Atlanta, Baltimore, LA, the Dodgers, Tampa, and Seattle are all ahead of the Brewers. And then the Brewers are 6th. The Brewers are ahead of Houston, Philadelphia, and Texas. Stunning that they're ahead of those 3 teams. Philly, even though the Brewers took 2 or 3 from Philly, I still think Philly's better than the Brewers. Houston and Texas from the American League West. Man, I would hate if the Brewers faced Houston or Texas in a 7-game series, the Brewers would be the underdog. If the Brewers played Philadelphia in a 7-game series, the Brewers would be the underdog. Yet the Brewers are ranked higher than them in the rankings on MLB.com. That's what I understand. I mean, let's face it. If you logically thinking in Vegas or on FanDuel, Houston, Philly, and Texas would all be favored against the Brewers in a 7-game series, and probably Toronto too, who's 10th. Yeah, the Brewers aren't better than those teams. I wish they were, just they're not. I would hate to have to run up against, and I said this even, when the Brewers, before they played Philly, I hope the Brewers, that Philly team scares me. They got some bats. They can hit the ball. They're an explosive team. And I think they should be probably ahead of the Brewers. I'm not trashing the Brewers here, anybody. I'm just saying what I think is basically an opinion. Ashby is going to pitch Wednesday and Sunday with the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. That's good news. Noon starts for both of those. If you guys are living in the Fox Valley or Milwaukee, you want to see some baseball on Wednesday afternoon or next Sunday, see some in-person baseball. Ashby's pitching both Wednesday and Sunday, and those are 12:10 starts at that beautiful ballpark off of 41 in Appleton. So that's good news. Pete Alonso was on foul territory, and he was asked about Pete Alonso. Were they interested in Pete Alonso? And of course, Matt Arnold danced around the question. He wasn't going to come out and say, yes, we wanted him. I wanted Pete Alonso. I tried like heck to get Alonso, but I wouldn't want to deal one of my top 3 prospects. That's what it came. He wouldn't say that. He danced around the question. He was asked that, though, about Pete Alonso at the trading deadline. Doesn't mean you can't go after him in the offseason, though, right? Julio Teheran is working on his rehab in Nashville. Boy, his stuff looked good today. I was watching the video today on Teheran. He looked good at Nashville. I thought he looked good here until he got hurt, but lost his last 3 starts. But I like Julio. We'll see if he's ever going to come back and pitch for the Milwaukee Brewers ever again. The Brewers appear to be loaded right now, and obviously in the starting rotation, there's just no room for him. Mark Attanasio, as I said, bought the 40% stock in the Norwich. I don't know what his MO is there, but that's a little surprising to me. A little surprisingly that he did that. Freddie Peralta pitches in the finale on Wednesday afternoon, 11:35 of that first pitch. You get the game on SiriusXM, the SXM app. Search Brewers. You get every baseball game out there. It's on SiriusXM. It's great. I told you, when I leave games at night, or if I leave an afternoon game, there's always a late afternoon game out on the West Coast, and hearing West Coast baseball in the middle of the night while you're driving home and one of these beautiful Wisconsin nights is a good thing. So SiriusXM, you need to get on that, and you get every Brewer game right there, no matter where you are in the country. And SiriusXM, the SXM app, search Brewers. Freddie Peralta, pitcher of the month for August. He's been great. Freddie, This is what we wanted from Freddie. We wanted greatness out of him, and we're seeing that right now. He's been a very strong number 3 starter, one of the best number 3 starters in Major League Baseball. Let's finish out this series with the Pirates and talk about it after the game tomorrow night. That's going to do it for Locked On Brewers. I'm Chuck Freeman, your host. Thanks for joining, everybody. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Have yourself a great Wednesday, everybody.